Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Less Known Classic. This episode number 2863 and Doubleshot number 2757. Well, we are on the penultimate trade for Excalibur Volume 3. Basically, it's Excalibur Volume 2 Saturday Night Fever, and discussing for Alpha Flight the Alpha Flight Special from Volume 1, which I forgot to discuss this one. The negative number 1 before the start of the Volume 2. The first 12 issues of Volume 2, and its sole annual. The annual Nintendo crossover Inhumans. First, let's talk about Excalibur. Excalibur is just continuing what was going on in the previous set of issues, where we have basically the core group. But one interesting happens in issue number 8. Magneto's absent for a lot of this book until he pops up issue 8, where he's brought to Genosha, because at the time these issues came out, because he's in the covers, yes, but he's not in the main issues. He's absolutely just stuff happening in Genosha. It's like the best way to describe what happened is basically Xavier trying to rebuild Genosha after being in ruins for publication-wise about 3 years at this point in time. And Magneto's gone off someplace. And he comes back with the Scarlet Witch. Yes. If you read Avengers Assembled, that's where Magneto basically, that's where that part picks up from his perspective. And then you don't see him in the next issue. He pops in the final issue where he's basically confined himself to his house. And it's all related to the Scarlet Witch. That's all set up for the final story of this book. Callisto does her own thing. Now, if you want to blame somebody for this secondary mutation thing, the concept was introduced by Chuck Austin. He introduced it in the pages of Kenny X-Men. In his second story of the book, where people got secondary mutations, that's where Emma Frost got famous diamond form people know her for, because here's the thing. Prior to the Chuck Austin and Kenny X-Men, Emma Frost was a very powerful telepath. Well, still very powerful telepath, and with the second mutation, she got her diamond form, which is something she still has. Some people got rid of the second mutations when M-Day happened. Callisto, her second mutation was her octopus arms. But she's still very gorgeous. Compared to how she was originally drawn, where she was not that pretty, where she basically was like a tomboy. And here, you see here on this cover of issue 5, where she's got very definitive breast and very well fit compared to original appearance where she was flat, where basically she's very, well, the best way to describe it is that she kind of looks like a guy. Yes, that's for some reason that was all John Byrne's doing. Yes, he drew her like that. Later years, I guess I'll realize though she's supposed to be a woman. Let's make her a woman, make her as sexy as possible, and though this picture here kind of gets her eye patch in the wrong place. Remember, her eye patch is supposed to be on her other eye, but I guess that, well, it's just the cover. Yeah, this opening issue is just, it's a flashback focused on Xavier's efforts to basically continue finding more survivors in Genosha. And, like, Calypso doing her own thing with basically what's going on here. By the way, Xavier is not walking. We continue to use the brand new character who was just introduced toward the end of the previous story here. Yeah, we continue to use the brand new Excalibur group, which the Food Fight arc is basically takes the issues 5 through 7, and then 8 through 10 is something else. Now, the team itself, by the way, Carmen Smith is not Omega Sentinel. She is Omega Sentinel later. Basically, Excalibur at this point in time is comprised of Xavier, Callisto, Wicked, Solos, Magneto, and Carmine Samenter. They basically have a branch, the X Corporation, appearing in this issue. Yes, they are somewhat still around, but after M-Day, they pretty much closed the X Corporation offices across the planet. And then they reopened them for the Krakoa stuff. The Mama branch is comprised of Zebra, M, Thunderbird, Light and Lifeguard. Thunderbird. This is the one that Chris Clemma created, who appeared in KNX 100. The odd thing with this guy is that there are certain parts, like, this guy just stopped showing up in comics. No, seriously, he just stopped appearing for years. Yeah, this is a one-off return for him after appearing in Extreme X-Men. After this, he is never seen again in print until Uncanny X-Men Volume 5 in 2019. So it takes him, after this one issue, 15 years for his next appearance. I don't know why. Yeah, and also we're still doing Untouchables Gang here. And despite the title called Food Fight, in issue number 6, we basically delve into Wicked's backstory, basically get her powers. That they don't give her a real name, but they basically, the whole thing with issue 6, it basically develops her. What also gets remembered by Hup, Huck, and Purge, and they're dealing with trolls. These four-armed trolls. Yeah, and they're only here just for these issues, and that's it for the Armored Trolls. But there's a character named Strip Mine, who is basically like their boss, and he also appears for these two issues. The food fight itself wraps up with issue number 7. If you look up an image of Calypso on Wikipedia, for a while they used the cover from issue 7 as basically her image. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, and also, get this. So, Dark Beast shows up in this storyline, but he's one of 2 Age Apocalypse people show up in this series. The very next story arc, we had the return of, get this, the Sugar Man. Yep, he returns in the next set of issues. Yeah, issue 8 is basically appearance by Wanda Maximoff, who last appeared in the final issue of Avengers. And then she's not seen again into like the very next issue, but yeah. They also have where the villains issue are the magistrates. And then like, oh, Magneto is told about death magistrates, and he just doesn't care. Yeah, that's what Clem writes them. By the way, they make a brief return in this book. And, like, there's a mention about what happened in the 90s related to Genosha, and it's not really brought up here. Oh, this is where the Senate Theory comes from, issue 8 through 10. And the character Hub joins the brand new Excalibur. Yeah. And she made a debut in issue 1. She's mostly here except issue 7. She's pretty much just here up until the third to last issue of the book. I should probably do something after this. Yeah, Sugar Man basically appearing in this book is interesting. I did not expect him to pop up here, but he did. Also, Dark Beast shows up here, and supposedly Sugar Man dies. But oh, no. He actually returns after this. Oh, yeah. He got killed by Omega Sentinel. And then he pops again for X-Men Volume 200. Yeah, that's his next appearance. Like, right after he gets killed off in the issue. By the way, the issue came out in 2005. His apparent resurrection, revealed to be alive, happened just 2 years later. How the heck is he alive is completely questionable. And then he pops up for Uncanny X-Men, some issues of New Mutants. This is the Unfinished Business story arc. Age Apocalypse. And then he pops up in Magneto. Yes. He's back there for one issue. And then an issue of Extraordinary X-Men. Yeah, he's back here for the Apocalypse War stuff, like one issue. And then he pops up for, get this, this might surprise you. He pops up for the Road Trip story arc for Spider-Man / Deadpool. You're like, what? Really? Yeah, he did. And then he next appeared in the first issue of X-Men Volume 5. And how the heck is he here? He supposedly gets killed off once again in issue 1. And then he appears one more time after this when Nick Spencer writes, and during Nick Spencer's run for Amazing Spider-Man, where his appearance, he is just back. And that was 4 years ago. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so why the heck would you bring him back? Like, he keeps getting killed off and brought back multiple times throughout the years. And he just keeps coming back. I don't get it. Yeah. But really interesting issues. And, well, next story arc begins the prelude to House of M. Yep. That's pretty much basically what the next story arc is. It's set up for that. Yep. But I'm going to give this story arc here roughly a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is Alpha Flight. First, we're starting with the Alpha Flight Special. That's what we're starting with first. This actually was released during the course of the first volume for the book. Yeah, this is commonly referred to as Alpha Flight Special Volume 2, Number 1. The first volume was 4 issues, and it were all reprints. Now, this book here, it's written by Excalibur, co-written by Simon Friedman, and the artwork here is done by Pat Broderick, good artist. Where we have this cop involved in situation with Wolverine. Yep. And then, like, he's supposedly brought up on charges of killing corrupt cops. So then he's like just recruited into like a group known as the Flight. And the whole book is focused on him. That's why I think the book is like, oh, this is Alpha Flight's first only mission Wolverine can lead them. Yeah, but the group is known as the Flight. That's what the group is known as. They were, it's like the whole group was hastily put together in this one issue, and then disbanded. The group themselves have not really appeared again after this at all. Also, in case you're curious though, like, if it's the Flight, okay, is Matt Gorgon the book? No, Matt Gorgon, is the Guardian book? Yes, but he's not part of the group. No. He is basically someone who supports them. The Flight is made up of a group of people. These group of people. We have Groundhog, who is the former cop Saint Bernard. Sean Bernard, St. Elmo, Smart Alec Thorne, Snowbird, Switch, and Wolverine. And this group existed in this one issue. And because this group was so hastily put together, this group was later decided to be disbanded and reorganized into 3 separate teams. Alpha Flight, Beta Flight, and Gamma Flight. Alpha Flight be, of course, the mere superior team. Beta and Gamma Flight are basically the trainee teams, or the backup teams for the Alpha Flight. That's most what it is here. Wolverine would not be part of Alpha Flight after this, because I think this is set. I'm thinking this is set between his debut appearance in the X-Men. I think it's set some point just after his debut. Now, they take on the Emissaries of Evil. And this is Egghead's version. Well, these are the members. Now, some of you may are familiar with these characters. And some of you might raise the question, Nick, who the heck are these people? Okay, so these Emissaries were formed by Egghead. Now, people kind of know about him thanks to, kind of the Ant-Man live-action movie. Well, the second one anyways, Ant-Man the Wasp. Where he was a rival of the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, where he was fired. In the comics, he definitely was a rival of his. The whole reason he's called Egghead because he got a big head. And he was around for a good 20 years. And then he died. When Hawkeye fired one of his trick arrows into Egghead's gun and caused it to backfire at him, killing him. And Hawkeye is later tried for this by the Avengers in their what they refer to usually Kangaroo Court, but it was self-defense. And the police later ruled it to be self-defense too, because basically he was protecting Hank Pym. Yeah. But I find it interesting, though, that this new character, Groundhog, he is like the basis character of the book. So like, oh, it's like the cover is like, oh, is Wolverine the main character of the book? Not really. He is not the main character. Like, the cover is a lie. Like, yeah, and by the way, the members of the MSC are guys of Eel, Porcupine, Power Man, the Rhino, and the Swordsman. You're thinking, wait, Power Man, you mean Luke Cage? No. Is it the guy who's the other one who appeared in 2010? Nope, not him at all. This is the original Power Man, who was sometime before Luke Cage, a guy who you know nowadays as Atlas. Eric Johnson, who had to force to give the title of Power Man because he lost a fight with Luke Cage. He later became the Smuggler, then Goliath, and then Atlas, which he's stuck with identity since then. The Eel. This was a enforcer. This, of course, is the original Eel. The one you see nowadays in comics is actually, well, Viper from Serpent. Now, the current Eel. If you're curious, though, like, a guy by the name of Edward Level, he is the current Eel right now. He's been the Eel since the days of Ghost Rider. Actually, since Power Man Fist when he first showed up. But this is obviously set long before his death. So, Rhino is interesting given the fact that he's a Spider-Man villain. And he gets to fight with Wolverine, who slices up his suit. But he doesn't bleed. It does get sliced up, though. I found that to be interesting. Porcupine, is this the one you see in Spider-Man? No, it's the original one. Yes, Alexander Gentry, who died in Captain America by the Scourge in the World. As in the case of the Swordsman, this is the same one who later became a member of the Avengers. And chronologically, his last appearance was in Avengers 38 in 1967. That was chronologically for him. His next appearance after this would be in the first Avengers Annual. Yep. Oh, and the Emissaries of Evil, Egghead's version. This actually first appeared in the pages of the 80s book. Actually first appeared in Defenders. Yeah. The whole thing was starting some nuclear attack in New York City, just like just happening nearby. And this was actually a return for this group, publication-wise, since Defenders. And this would be the last appearance of the Emissaries of Evil. They also have Dr. Walter Lewandowski, a.k.a. Sasquatch. There's also Dr. Michael Tuggerman, a.k.a. Shaman. So we have people who become part of Alpha Flight. Now, the only character here who gets killed off here is a guy by the name of St. Elmo. He gets killed in this very issue here. Smart Alec, this actually was first appearance chronologically. This is the character first appeared in the pages of Alpha Flight number 1. Who later became part of Gamma Flight. Yeah, he later died in Alpha Flight 45. Snowbird is part of the team. Probably the only person from the flight went to Alpha Flight was Snowbird. There's also a character named Switch, who... This was her first appearance, yes. She later popped up in the main Alpha Flight book, and after those two appearances, wasn't seen again until the Marauders Annual, which came out in 2022. And that issue of Alpha Flight came out in October of 1983, roughly almost 30 years later. That's when she returned, and her most recent appearance was in Marauders number 8. That was the most recent time they featured him. Excuse me. Yep. But great one shot. I thought it was fantastic. Next up we have is Alpha Flight. Oh, it's known as Alpha Flight at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Which is a flashback month for this one. Mm-hmm. It's known as In the Beginning, Negative Number 1. The biggest thing with this book is that this is how... They explain in this book of how James and Heather first met, where it's shown that she was hired as his secretary. And, of course, James is a scientist. And as soon as she saw him, she fell madly in love with him. Like, this little heart bubble went up her. And after a while of tension between two of them, he just outright proposes to her, and she says yes. And the coworker's like, yeah, congratulations, but we still have work to do. And eventually, they had a small wedding where she had her friend, and Wolverine was there for the wedding. As a matter of fact, Wolverine had just met them prior to this. Because I think it was explained in a flashback from Kenny X-Men that Wolverine first met the Hudsons when they were engaged, when they lived in a log cabin. I later found out something interesting about the Hudsons. They're actually related to Wolverine. How? James is his cousin. Yep, the Guardian is his cousin. But love this one shot. It was fantastic. I love the beginning of the relationship between Heather and James. I thought it was really cool. This, of course, ends up becoming, at the time he was weapon Alpha here, but later becomes, like, the Guardian. Right after this. Oh, and the cover is done by Tony S. Daniel. Oh, and the person who marries them is Stan Lee. This priest who basically is Stan Lee. He has popped up a few times over the years. This is also the same person who married Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. I'm trying to see. Yep. Same person. It's like the whole thing with Stan Lee popping up on the Marvel Comic Universe. His appearances were like not regular. They were completely random. His last known appearance, he popped up in an issue of X-Force. The previous one for the book. Yeah, it was quite interesting. But in the case of the very first issue of Alpha Volume 2, this debuted a brand new character. We have a new Guardian who debuted here, who is a de-aged James Hudson, who's 19, who at first does not remember the fact that he and Heather are supposed to be married, and then later on he kisses her completely out of nowhere. Yeah, where is the actual Guardian in this book? Don't know. I found that this guy is actually a clone of his. Yes, this guy's a clone. And, like, he's a bit disrespectful to his own teammates, where Puck is giving some orders that make perfect sense. And of course, Guardian's like, that's good, but those are my orders to give, not yours. Bit ticked off as much. Also, Heather does not wear her glasses in this whole book. Nope. She wears a green suit, which she still wears that today. The glasses she used to have were completely gone. I guess they figured, though, don't need the glasses anymore because maybe they're out of style for a pretty girl to wear glasses. And, like, the whole thing, they just go on some adventures together. Like, they take on a new version of the Zodiac in their opening issue, led by a guy called Epite. Yeah. Yeah, the Epite version of them. And this version of Zodiac would actually be around for pretty much almost all of these issues. And throughout these issues, they indirectly set up the Weapon X ongoing series. So yeah, basically, Madison Jeffries, aka Box, he ends up joining and then quitting the team in the same issue. And we have new characters like a new Sasquatch, who's a beast, who's a mythical beast, and Rodius. Yeah, he appeared in the beginning one shot. He's no friend of the Hudsons. And he only exists in this volume. He did not appear much after this book wrapped up. Nope, but he was originally this very volume. They even have a building prop of this book, which is Department H, which is basically like, it's this big building with this like circle on it with the maple leaf on it. That's Department H. Yeah, that's the new version of Department H headquarters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's circular instead of, well, you know. Yeah, then issue 2, they return to Master of the World. Yeah, the Master of the World returns this book because, of course he does. Because Alpha Flight can't be Alpha Flight Master of the World. Oh, and issue 2, they take on this guy called Cook, who actually in the beginning one shot, and then gets killed off the very next issue. Yes. Issue 3 is return of, well, they actually have Mesmero appear as a recurring villain in this book. Yeah, he appears there for 3 issues, then he returns to X-Men right after this one. It's like his appearance in this book was like him going on vacation to fight Alpha Flight. Yeah, they didn't have Sunfire appear in the book, was interesting. And also he joins Alpha Flight, which is interesting. But by issue 5, basically they're done with him. And then we have Epsilon Flight. Also, General Clarke is written to be sort of very antagonistic toward Alpha Flight. Mm-hmm. They of course continue dealing with the Zodiac in here. Yeah, the North Star returns to this book here. Yeah, by issue 8, they reopen the Weapon X files, which draws in Wolverine, and this later says some more Weapon X stuff. Mm-hmm. Also with Chiron. Yeah, then in issue 10 we have a guest appearance by the Micronauts for a few issues. Yes, the Micronauts. Some of them, anyways, but not all of them. Basically, Bug, Deximer, and Commander Arturus Rand. I thought these issues were a lot of fun, taking off these guys. By issue 12, they kill up the beast version of Sasquatch. Yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention the writer of this book is Steven Seagal. And by issue 12, they kill off General Clarke, who'd been sort of like their supervisor, so he gets killed off. And we get more members of the Zodiac appear in this book, in issue 12. And then let's talk about the one and only Annie this book had. Mm-hmm. We have Alpha Flight Ascension Humans, number 98, number 1. Yeah, this I found to be quite interesting. where, like, the whole thing with this book, by the way, it's written by Joe Casey, Steven Seagal, Mark Bruno, and artwork by Tom Rooney. Yeah, basically, Vindicator goes to Humans, and there's stuff related to her. The whole book is centered on her, and the whole team up between Alpha Flight and the Humans is a bit of a secondary thing to this book, but it's all about Heather, which I found to be quite interesting in this book. But great books. Love them. Give them a 10 out of 10. Excellent. So yeah, that's a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do hit the dislike button. Next up, another comic corner. And this one, well, I'm trying to find it here. I'm trying to think. I think it was what was like another one I did. Not that one. I'll find it in just a minute, okay? Next video. Bye.